Alhamdulillah. كله عبادة صح?
What?
Everything we was just doing, right? Yeah, what's the Russian ibadah?
Well,
When we were in early school, some of the best days in my school, I had a friend named Ibrahim. And we would get together every day. We'd do a page of the Mus'haf. We'd read the tafsir of it. So we'd memorize the page, do the tafsir of it. I'm trying to remember what was up on Namij and Hadith. You just get together from Dhuhr to Asr. You can accomplish a lot. So there's no need to rush through it. طيب بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Alhamdulillah, we'll continue with reading from the book known as Iqtidaa us-Siraat-il-Mustaqeem لمخالفة أصحاب الجحيم. The straight path necessitates being different from the people of the hellfire. And we stopped where the author, rahimahullah ta'ala, was going to mention some of the qualities that the Muslims have fallen into where there is a mushabaha, there is a comparison or a similarity to the Jews and the Christians in them. And these qualities, the reason I like this section of the book is because these qualities are things that we find ourselves falling into often. And we see it in ourselves and in others. And it gives us a sense of awareness that when we're doing it, to check ourselves. And when we see it in others, to advise them and to remember that this is something that's going to happen, so to have patience with it. But these qualities the author is going to mention are qualities where the Muslims have resembled the Jews and the Christians. I'm trying to see where it was at. It was at the beginning of it. What was his statement? وَلِهَذَا قَالَ عَبْدُ الرَّحْمَنِ No. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا No. وَأَنَا أُشِيرُ من يقرأ لنا؟ This one? Go ahead. تفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
اللهم
اغفر لنا ولشيخنا وللحاضرين والمستمعين. قال أما بعد، قال الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله في كتابه الاقتضاء الصراط المستقيم.
Is it الاقتضاء؟
اقتضاء الصراط المستقيم.
مضاف إليه.
وأنا أشير إلى بعض أمور أهل الكتاب الأعاجم التي ابتليت بها هذه الأمة ليجتنب المسلم الحنيف الانحراف عن الطريق المستقيم إلى صراط المغضوب عليهم أو الضالين. قال الله سبحانه: ود كثير من أهل الكتاب لو يردونكم من بعد إيمانكم كفارا حسدا من عند أنفسهم من بعد ما تبين لهم الحق فذم اليهود على ما حسدوا المؤمنين على الهدى والعلم. وقد يبتلى بعض المنتسبين إلى العلم وغيرهم بنوع من الحسد لمن هداه الله بعلم نافع أو عمل صالح، وهو خلق مذموم
وهو
خلق مذموم مطلقا، وهو في هذا الموضع من أخلاق المغضوب عليهم. وقال الله سبحانه
حسب وقد يبتلى به كثير. I'm trying to find where it is in here. It should be وأنا أشير. فقد يبتلى وأنا أشير إلى بعض الأمور الكتاب ولو يردوا فالذم اليهود. Yeah, your print seems to be different than what he just read, but it's right here. It starts from where it says وأنا أشير. Where's it at? Right there. وأنا أشير. طيب. The author rahimahullah ta'ala, he thought, and anybody have any words that they're interested about before we start? Everybody found it? قال رحمه الله تعالى وأنا أشير إلى بعض أمورهم أو أمور أهل الكتاب والأعاجم التي ابتليت بها هذه الأمة ليجتنب المسلم الحنيف الانحراف عن الصراط المستقيم إلى صراط المغضوب عليهم أو الضالين. So the author rahimahullah ta'ala is saying, and I'm going to indicate, I'm going to point to, وَأَنَا أُشِيرُ, I'm going to point to some of the affairs of the people of the scripture as well as the a'ajim. Right? Remember we said the people are two categories. التشبه في الدين والتشبه في الخلق والثقافة والعادات. And he mentioned from that the people of the scripture and then the non-Arab. He says, I'm going to point to some of the affairs of the people of the scripture and the non-Arab that ubtuliyat, they have been tested. Al-ibtila, al-imtihan, al-fitna. قال ubtuliyat biha هذه الأمة, that this ummah has been tested or afflicted with some of it. ليجتنب المسلم الحنيف, so that the Muslim who is hanif, who turns away from inaccuracy, so that the correct Muslim can stay away, ليجتنب الانحراف, can stay away from deviating from the path of, or the straight path. He can stay away from deviating from the straight path, ending up into the path of the maghdubi alayhim, or the dhalin. So this is that section. The author is going to mention some of these qualities. The first one he mentions is the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لَوْ يَرُدُّونَكُم مِّن بَعْدِ إِيمَانِكُمْ كُفَّارًا حَسَدًا مِّنْ عِندِ أَنفُسِهِم مِّن بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الْحَقُّ. وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ, right? A lot of the people who have been given the book, they love if they could return you or send you backwards after you've had faith to becoming disbelievers. Jealousy from their own selves. Out of jealousy from their own selves, after it has been made clear to them the haqq. Like the su'al, what is the quality that he's criticizing here? Or what is the quality that a lot of Muslims have that is a quality of the people of the book? Allah says, وَدَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ. A lot of the people of the book, they love, لَوْ يَرُدُّونَكُم مِّن بَعْدِ إِيمَانِكُمْ كُفَّارًا. They would love to send you back to becoming disbelievers after you've had iman, حَسَدًا مِّنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِهِمْ, out of jealousy from their own selves, after it became clear to them the truth. What is the quality that a lot of Muslims have? That is a quality of the people of the book. Hasad, yeah, jealousy. And we see this in the Muslims. Unfortunately, you see sometimes that Muslim, and nobody is free from it. Whether it be student of knowledge to student of knowledge, common person to student of knowledge to common person, scholar to scholar, you find people often afflicted with jealousy. And this jealousy, what is jealousy? What is hasad? Al-hasad, people give it different definitions. Some of them say huwa yani iradatu izalati ni'mati an al-ghayr, that you want the blessing of Allah to leave somebody else. Allah gave somebody something and you want that blessing to leave them. And that's what some people say jealousy is. But jealousy is more than that. Jealousy is karahatu ni'matillahi ala al-ghayr, is that you dislike that Allah blessed somebody else. The fact that Allah gave somebody a blessing, you have a dislike that that blessing is with them. Right? And we see this in what Allah mentions about the Yahud and about the Nasara, they have this jealousy that Allah guided you to Islam, and so they wish that that ni'mah leave, and they dislike that that ni'mah has been shown to you. حَسَدًا مِنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِهِمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الْحَقِّ. So this is that first quality. He says, فَذَمَّ الْيَهُودَ عَلَى مَا حَسَدُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ عَلَى الْهُدَى وَالْعِلْمِ. So Allah criticized the Jews out because of the jealousy that they showed the believers for what they had been given from guidance and knowledge. So that first quality that the Muslims resemble the disbelievers in is al-hasad. So the Muslim has to be careful when he sees his Muslim brother with something, or he sees a person with something, right? He doesn't have this dislike that Allah blessed him with that. Why does he have this? Why does he get that? Let alone to wish that Allah would take it away from them, right? Like the Yahud wish that Allah would take us away from Iman back into disbelief. He said after that, وَقَدْ يُبْتَلَى بَعْضُ الْمُنْتَسِبِينَ إِلَى الْعِلْمِ وَغَيْرِهِمْ بِنَوْعٍ مِنَ الْحَسَدِ لِمَنْ هَدَاهُ اللَّهُ بِعِلْمٍ نَافِعٍ أو عمل صالح وهو خلق مذموم مطلقا وهو في هذا الموضع من أخلاق المغضوب عليهم. And this is what we were saying, that وَقَدْ يُبْتَلَى بَعْضُ الْمُنْتَسِبِينَ إِلَى الْعِلْمِ. Even some of the people who attribute themselves or who are attributed to or affiliated to knowledge. And this is something, unfortunately, we see sometimes amongst some of the brothers in various places. There'll become a sense of jealousy amongst the students, right? That this student memorizes, and another student might become jealous of him. Or this student has provisions during his study, right? He has a home when he's able to travel. He has the ability to have money, and so another student might become jealous. And they have this dislike for the blessing that Allah showed someone else. This student was able to get to this dars. He was close to this sheikh, right? Why can't I be close to this sheikh? This student was able to get this book. Why wasn't I given the free book? You see what I'm saying? These things happen, even with those who are attributed to knowledge, let alone other than them, right? Even other, as well as other than them. They have a type of jealousy. And this is balanced from Shaykh al-Islam. He doesn't attribute them to being jealous. He doesn't say they are jealous. He just says they have a type of jealousy, right? And it's important to understand that this type of jealousy can be in things that are good, but it's still a type of jealousy, right? Like we talk about, he might be jealous that somebody got information that he didn't get. Somebody got a private jealousy. Like some of these things might not make sense, but take it from one who's experienced. Like when you get to be in a private room with some of the mashayikh, another person might get jealous of that. Why you get called to the back, right? You get free books, you get free things. Maybe because of your nationality, you can't get into certain gatherings, right? Where other people, because of their nationality, they're able to get into certain gatherings. And so you start to develop a jealousy of this, right? And so it's important that you recognize that nothing comes to you except from Allah. And nothing is held back from you except because of Allah. And so you have to fight that jealousy, that type of jealousy that even might be for something good. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, he told us, La hasada illa fi ithnatayn. There's no jealousy except in two things. And the word jealousy in this hadith, it's not referring to that jealousy that we talk about where you dislike the blessing of Allah upon somebody else, but it means to want what they have from good, right? And they translate it, or the word in Arabic for it is al-ghibt, right? That you want what somebody else has from good. But it's important for the person, especially the student of knowledge, to fight off this jealousy from himself for those whom Allah has guided with beneficial knowledge and righteous action. And there's a statement that Shaykh al-Islam, he makes in other places, and that is, if you see somebody taking advantage of their knowledge, right? And this is something that we might experience. You see a guy always praise his sunnahs, or you see a guy who always is making his dhikr. He doesn't cut off. He's always reviewing the Quran. from the strange things, which is like for us to say it, it sounds strange. But sometimes we find ourselves mad at that person. You'll see yourself, here we go again, reciting Quran again. Always reciting Quran. Why are you always reciting Quran? And like to hear yourself say it, you'd be like, that's ridiculous. But you find yourself sometimes like almost angry at the fact that they're worshiping Allah. And a lot of times it's because you're not doing that action. And so the natural defect is the natural result is to be angry at somebody who is doing something that you're not doing. And that's jealousy. And he says, instead, the way to combat this is that you look at them and you're happy for what Allah has blessed them with, and you wish that you were doing it as well. Right? That person who always does this action, he gets up in the middle of the night like it's nothing for him. And inside you say, well, you don't got to get up in the middle of the night. That's extra action. And you start finding yourself criticizing it. Instead of criticizing that person, you support them and you desire that they get to continue. You don't dislike the blessing of Allah. And you ask Allah to increase you, that he gives you that which he gave them as well. And so he says some of the people that are attributed to knowledge as well as other than them are afflicted with this, with a type of jealousy towards those whom Allah has blessed or guided them to beneficial knowledge and righteous action. And it is a criticizable characteristic. وَهُوَ خُلُقٌ مَذْمُومٌ مُطْلَقًا. This quality is criticizable regardless of who does it. وَهُوَ فِي هَذَا الْمَوْضِعِ مِنْ أَخْلَاقِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ. But in this circumstance that we're talking about, it's uniquely or it's especially from the qualities of those whom Allah has been angry with them. And there's two things about that statement. The first of them is, when we talk about the quality, like we talk about, this book is all about what topic?
Being different.
Being different from who? The people of the book and the A'ajim, right? Being different from the people of the hellfire. Why should we be different from them?
So we don't become like them.
Mumtaz, because they're the people. Being the people of the hellfire is because of what they did. And so doing what they did will make you from the people of the hellfire. And so here, one of the things that is important to recognize that the author is going to say directly soon is everything they do is bad, regardless of the fact that they did it or not. But the fact that they did it increases the badness of it, right? Everything, jealousy, is it good or bad? It's bad. Every time it's bad. But it even, it's like a sign to let you know it's even worse, the fact that they did it, right? An example, for example, poison, is it good or bad? And most of the time, poison tastes what? Tastes bad. To let you know it's bad. It's like a sign to show you that it's bad, even if you didn't know they did it. Or even if you didn't know it was bad, just the fact that it tastes bad is going to let you be like, nah, I don't want to drink that, right? Khinzir, right? It's no good. But if you smell it, if you see chitlins being cleaned or you smell it, it's a sign before you even know it's haram, like, nah, I don't think I want that. And so that's what he's indicating here, that jealousy is a bad quality. But in case you didn't know jealousy is a bad quality, it suffices you to know that who showed jealousy? Al-Maghdubi alayhim. Iblis. Al-Maghdubi alayhim, right? They're the ones who showed jealousy. So even if you didn't know it was a bad quality, it's enough to know Iblis did. You want to be like Iblis? The Yahud did. You want to be like the Yahud? The Maghdubi alayhim did. You want to be like them? He goes on to say, so, but in this circumstance, it's especially i.e. bad because it's from the qualities of the Maghdub alayhim. So this is the first characteristics that some of the Muslims have fallen into that resembles the characteristics of the people of the scripture and the A'ajim. Somebody else read? Welcome. وقال الله
وقال الله سبحانه إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ويكتمون ما آتاهم الله من فضله فوصفهم بالبخل الذي هو البخل بالعلم والبخل بالمال وإن كان السياق يدل على أن البخل بالعلم هو المقصود الأكبر وكذلك وصفهم بكتمان العلم في غير آية مثل قوله تعالى وإذ أخذ الله ميثاق الذين أوتوا الكتاب لتبيننه للناس ولا تكتمونه الآية وقوله تعالى إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزلنا من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله ويلعنهم اللاعنون إلا الذين تابوا الآية وقوله إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزل الله من الكتاب ويشترون به ثمنا قليلا أولئك ما يأكلون في بطونهم إلا النار الآية وقال تعالى وإذا لقوا الذين آمنوا قالوا آمنا وإذا خلا بعضهم إلى بعض قالوا أتحدثونهم بما فتح الله عليكم ليحاجوكم به عند ربكم أفلا تعقلون فوصف المغضوب عليهم بأنهم يكتمون العلم تارة بخلا به وتارة اعتياضا عن إظهاره بالدنيا وتارة خوفا أن يحتج عليهم بما أظهروه منه.
حسبك. طيب في سؤال عن كلمة؟ طيب. So the first quality is al-hasad. The second quality, the author makes it clear for us so we don't have to rack our brains to figure out what it is. He says, وَقَدْ يُبْتَلَى, that same word again. He says, وقال الله سبحانه إن الذين يحبون إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا. Indeed, Allah does not love those who are mukhtal. والمختال افتعال من خيلاء. Right, that hadith about dragging your garment on the ground, khuyala, arrogant. Right, إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا. والفخر is to think highly of oneself, to be arrogant and to think high of oneself, to have fakhr, right? Allah does not love those who are arrogant and prideful. الَّذِينَ يَبْخَلُونَ, right? Those who are stingy. وَيَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبُخْلِ, and they command people to be stingy or with stinginess. وَيَكْتُمُونَ مَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, and they conceal that which Allah has given them from His bounty. Al-Fadl is extra, right? What Allah has given them from that which He has. So here we see a couple of qualities, but the author is going to pick one of them out. We have al-ikhtiyal, to be arrogant. We have al-fakhr, to be prideful. We have al-bukhl, right, to conceal or be stingy. And we have al-kitman, to conceal, which kind of falls in with al-bukhl. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, فَوَصَفَهُمُ اللَّهُ بِالْبُخْلِ. Allah has described them as being stingy. And if we all remember the other day when we talked about from the qualities of the Yahud, one of the ones that sticks out is their stinginess. And a lot of times our default thought is to think that they're stingy with what?
Money.
With money. That's our default thought. And it doesn't mean that they're not. But then somebody might argue, well, look, they have some of the biggest charitable organizations. Look how much money they spend in Africa and here and there and how much they donate, right? Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. These people have money that they donate all the time. How could they be stingy with money? Well, the reality of it is that they're stingy with money, but also something more important than money. Ibn Taymiyyah, he says, Allah describes them with stinginess, which is the stinginess in knowledge, as well as the stinginess in wealth. Even though the context of this statement is that it's indicating that the stinginess of knowledge is the greater aim of this ayah. Al-Maqsood al-Akbar. It's the greater point that's being made in this ayah, that they're stingy with knowledge. وَكَذَلِكَ وَصَفَهُمْ بِكِتْمَانِ الْعِلْمِ فِي غَيْرِ آيَةٍ. Right? He says this ayah shows that it's talking about stinginess in knowledge, and like this Allah describes them being those who conceal knowledge in various ayah. فِي غَيْرِ آيَةٍ. In various different ayah. For example, Allah says, وَإِذْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ لَتُبَيِّنُنَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَكْتُمُونَهُ. And when Allah took the covenant from those who were given the scripture, indeed you will clarify it to the people and you won't conceal it. In Surah Ali Imran. And instead they concealed it. They didn't clarify to the people. They didn't clarify, for example, in their own time. They didn't allow knowledge to be disseminated. They didn't, and you see this even in the Christians as well, like the role of the church and the role of the religious people, how they keep knowledge amongst themselves to keep authority over the people. And you see the difference between Islam and that. There is no pope in Islam. There is no independent official body that we all have to answer to other than the messenger of Allah. And the Sahaba, they used to say, I believe it was Umar bin Abdul Aziz, that the Ummah won't, like when they were narrating hadith in secrecy, he said, we won't cease to be on good as long as our affairs are apparent. Knowledge should be available to everyone. But you find them concealing the knowledge from the people, and he's going to talk about the reasons why they do it. Another ayah where Allah mentions it, he says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْتُمُونَ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْبَيِّنَاتِ وَالْهُدَى مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا بَيَّنَّاهُ لِلنَّاسِ فِي الْكِتَابِ أُولَٰئِكَ يَلْعَنُهُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَلْعَنُهُمُ اللَّاعِنُونَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ تَابُوا. In Surah Al-Baqarah, right? Surah Al-Baqarah? Huh? No, Surah Al-Baqarah, no. إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ تَابُوا وَأَصْلَحُوا وَبَيَّنُوا. Now, he says, indeed those who conceal what we have sent down from the clear signs, or al-bayyinat, as well as guidance, after it was clarified to the people. This is once again showing that Allah makes this knowledge something for all mankind. Ar-Rahman allama al-Quran khalaqa al-insan allamahu al-bayan. Its knowledge should be for all. It should be an exchange of knowledge. Nobody should be keeping it for themselves. He says, أُولَٰئِكَ يَلْعَنُهُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَلْعَنُهُمُ اللَّائِنُونَ. The people who try to conceal the knowledge, Allah curses them, and likewise those who are entitled to curse them as well. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ تَابُوا, except those who make tawbah. The ayah. Likewise, he mentions another ayah. He says, وَقَوْلُهُ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْتُمُونَ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَيَشْتَرُونَ بِهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا. Here he's mentioning another reason why they conceal. Right? Sometimes they conceal to keep authority and advantage over the people. Here he's mentioning another reason they conceal. He says, those who conceal what Allah has sent down from the book, and they purchase with it a small value, or they use it to purchase a small gain, it is these who do not consume into their stomachs anything other than the hellfire. And then he mentions another ayah where he says, وَقَالَ تَعَالَى وَإِذْ لَقَوْا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَا بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ قَالُوا أَتُحَدِّثُونَهُمْ بِمَا فَتَحَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ لِيُحَاجُّوكُمْ بِهِ عِنْدَ رَبِّكُمْ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Here's another reason why they conceal. And if you look at where these ayat are coming from, like what surah they're in, you see a lot of them being in the early surahs in the Quran. Baqarah, Ali Imran, Nisa, Ma'idah, because these are the ayat that were sent down in the early phase in Medina, when the interaction with the Yahud became more abundant. And so Allah is pointing out to the Muslims those characteristics that they had, that the Muslim could stay away from it. So if you want to be aware of how Allah describes them and their realities, then upon you is those surahs, right? Because that's those early surahs that were sent down in Medina, where this is the first time that the Muslims are experiencing their interaction with Ahlul Kitab. So he says, when it's said to them, have faith, and when they meet those who have faith, they say, we have faith. And when some of them are alone with others, they say, will you tell them about what Allah has, yani fatah Allahu alaykum, what Allah has opened upon you, what Allah has shown you, what Allah has given you, what Allah has allowed you to understand, لِيُحَاجُّوكُمْ بِهِ عِنْدَ رَبِّكُمْ, so that they can use it as an argument against you in front of your Lord. Will you not have any intellect? So we see here the author mentions 3 reasons that they conceal. They conceal knowledge, that they're stingy with knowledge. The first of them is to maintain control. The second of them is to gain the dunya. And the third of them, he mentions, is to avoid being out-argued or avoid being overtaken and proven wrong. And for that, the author, he says, فَوَصَفَ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ بِأَنَّهُمْ يَكْتُمُونَ الْعِلْمِ تَارَةً بُخْلًا بِهِ. Sometimes they conceal the knowledge out of stinginess with it. And sometimes they conceal the knowledge, وَتَارَةً اِعْتِيَاضًا أَنْ إِظْهَارِهِ بِالدُّنْيَا, to take what's the word, i'tiyal, like to exchange it for to exchange not showing it for some portion of the dunya. I'tiyal and ifharihi, to exchange for not showing it, right? I'tiyal, a replacement, and ifharihi, they get in replacement for not showing it something from the dunya. وَتَارَةً خَوْفًا أَنْ يُحْتَجَّ عَلَيْهِمْ بِهِ بِمَا أَظْهَرُوهُ مِنْ, and sometimes they conceal it so that it cannot be used as an argument against them if they were to show it off. And we say we look at the Muslims and see what qualities we've fallen into from that. How many, like this is especially directed to those who have responsibilities like in masajid, leadership roles, teachers and things like that. How often do we keep people ignorant so they can't take our place, right? And this is especially like realized when you like I say, some of these things, because of how our dynamic is, we might not notice them, but they're especially realized when you understand charity and who's in charge of the charity and who gets to have their hand where the money goes, who gets to be in charge of the building, who gets to be in charge of these things. And in the past, that was a big thing, because the awqaf, the religious endowments, this was an easy way to live. Or having authority over the people where everybody has to listen to you. So if we were all equal in knowledge, why would you have to listen to me? And you see that after a time in America where there were very few students, to a time in America where the students became more in number. There was a time where very few of us spoke Arabic. If you spoke Arabic, even a little bit, you were the rock star of the city, right? Oh, mashallah, I speak, especially amongst the American community, especially amongst the African American community. Oh, mashallah, he speaks Arabic. You could marry any woman you want. You could have any position you want. You were the top dog, right? Billah. But then as more students came, what happened? That status reduced, and that caused people to have what we talked about before, that hasad, that led to that argument, that led to that fighting and concealing to keep your role, to keep your position, or concealing the information to get some benefit out of the dunya. I'm not going to talk about this issue because it's going to bring me value in my pocket. If I criticize examples of these things, can you use zakat to finance a masjid? Right? Let's say we adopt the opinion that the stronger view is that you can't. And that's the view that you have as the imam of the masjid. And then somebody wants to give their zakat for the masjid. What do you say? You tell them, no, you can't give zakat for the masjid. Go take it to the poor people outside. They need it. Right? The masjid, we can't accept zakat for the masjid. Or do you not say anything so that you can get money? Right? I'tiyadan and izharihi, for something from the dunya. I'm not going to mention this, I'm not going to say this so that we can get the benefit from it. And that's even in a good situation, let alone when it becomes those bad situations where I'm not going to say that this is riba because you paid me in Islamic financing. I'm not going to tell you that this is a riba transaction because I'm on your board and I give the fatwa that say you can do this because you pay me. And you see these things, so it's important that the Muslim, especially the student, be aware of this quality of not concealing ilm. Sometimes you don't tell somebody so they can't use it as a proof against you. You have a position, right? But somebody else has a different position. And so you don't tell somebody the evidence that could benefit their position so that they can't use it as an argument against you and the position that you take. And this is abundant. We find this a lot. And so it's important that the Muslim be careful of these qualities, lest he fall into something that was from the qualities of the maghdub alayhim. Somebody else continue. تفضل.
أنا
أي تفضل. وهذا
وهذا قد يبتلى وهذا قد يبتلى به طوائف من المنتسبين إلى العلم فإنهم تارة يكتمون العلم بخلا به
وكراهة.
I don't have 2 dots here. وكراهة.
Yeah, it's just the typo. It's كراهة.
نعم وكراهة لأن ينال أو ينال لأن ينال غيرهم من الفضل ما نالوه وتارة اعتياضا عنه برئاسة أو مال فيخاف من إظهاره انتقاص رئاسته أو نقص ماله وتارة يكون قد خالف غيره
You said it right. قد خالف غيره
في مسألة أو اعتزى إلى طائفة قد
Yes, you do. Think about it. And this is why reading is important, because you know the rules, but you don't experience them until you practice them. If it's a dhamma, then what you think the haraka is before. And one good thing about the Arab is that everything they say sounds easy. What'd you say? Does that sound easy? Khawalafat?
Yeah.
It sounds easy? Khulifat. Right? The way that their words sound, it makes sense. They don't, like, they say things to where, like, khawalafat, that's too many haraka. Right? So khulifat mabni lil ma lam yusam fa'iluhu. Fu'ilat. Yeah.
فوعل. قد خولفت في مسألة فيكتم من العلم ما فيه حجة لمخالفه وإن لم يتيقن أن مخالفه مبطل.
Now, any kalimat. Also, as we're doing this, any grammar questions, right? If you hear me say a dhamma when you thought it was a fatha, if you hear me say a kasra when you thought it was a dhamma, ask that question. Why is it فهذا قد يبتلى with a ضمة. فهذا قد يبتلى به طوائف من المنتسبين أو طوائف نعم طوائف من المنتسبين للعلم. So he's saying this quality, a contingent or a group of طوائف, yani groups, plural of طائفة, groups of those who are attributed to knowledge are afflicted with this, right? Concealing knowledge, being stingy with knowledge. You find Muslims who are considered to be knowledgeable or students of knowledge afflicted with this. فَإِنَّهُمْ تَارَةً يَكْتُمُونَ الْعِلْمَ بُخْلًا بِهِ. You find them sometimes concealing knowledge out of stinginess with it. This is something that is actually common among students. One thing that used to happen is if there's a dars, right, or an ijazah, even during the time of the Salaf, it was something common, right? If there's a dars that's an ijazah, or there's a dars where they're giving something out in it, you find that for some reason the students don't tell other students about it. Hey, akhi, they're giving out, money at this dars tonight, and they don't tell you about it. Or if there's an ijazah for an isnad, they don't tell you about it. If there's a nice class happening, you find that they won't tell you about it. Why? Bukhlan. They don't want anybody else to share, right? So sometimes they do it out of stinginess. وَكَرَاهَةً, and they dislike, that goes back to what we talked about from what? Disliking that somebody else gets a blessing? Hasad. Bukhlan wa karahatan. We find that these two things go together. Out of stinginess with that information and a dislike لِأَنْ يَنَالَ غَيْرُهُمْ مِنَ الْفَضْلِ مَا نَالُوا, and a dislike that others besides them accomplish or they reach a level of virtue that they have reached. Right? And they sometimes you find them misunderstanding ayat. Allah says, وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ, and that let them compete those who are going to compete. What does that mean? إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ وَيَدْعُونَنَا رَغَبًا وَرَهَبًا. Allah talks about the family of Zakaria that they used to compete in doing good. Is that what the author is saying here about them being stingy, that somebody else reaches their level? So what's the difference? What's the difference between competing in doing good and being stingy with the knowledge and with the good?
Dislike.
Huh?
Dislike.
Well, that's hasid. That could be a part that you dislike somebody else. But for example, it's a line. Do you want to be the highest person in paradise? You see what I'm saying? Do you want somebody to be higher than you in paradise? No, I want to be the highest one in paradise. So you compete for it. But where is the difference between competing in the good and concealing it? And it's a line that must be, for example, if I'm in the front row, am I going to step out to let somebody else in? No, because I want that. I want that good. If I'm in a position in the dars where I'm in the front, am I going to move to the back to let somebody else sit at the front? No, because I want that good. If there's somebody, this is something we all experience, charity to be given, am I going to let somebody else give the charity instead of me? No, because I want that good. So I'm competing for the good. But that's different than being stingy with the knowledge and being stingy with the good. And it's kind of like what you mentioned, that jealousy of it, that you want to stop anybody from having an opportunity to do good as well, right?
When there's room for more.
Especially when there's room for more. And so that's the kind of thing that we have to be conscious of. There's a difference between competing in the good and being stingy with the good. Right? The Sahabiyat, I'm trying to remember her name. She said to her husband, do you have a desire to do any good today? Right? Like that's how they used to compete with. You want to do some good today? Here, I know somebody needs some charity. And they would compete like this, right? But instead of just being, I don't want anybody to know. And they often, some of the brothers, they often use the thing about it like, well, we don't want evil eye. We don't want somebody to give us the evil eye in it. So we conceal what good opportunities there are, right? Is there ability for me to go learn somewhere, ya akhi? Allah knows best, akhi. I don't know. Even though you know you've been accepted in the school that's paying for everything, because you don't want anybody to give you the evil eye so you conceal it. When you could have told them, yeah, you just go to this website, sign up, and they'll accept you. Well, I don't want nobody else from my city coming, so they come and mess it up for me when I get there. You know, once the Somali brothers come, they're going to mess it up. Once the Persian brothers come, they're going to mess it up. So you conceal it for yourself instead of just letting it be for everybody. So he says that sometimes they can steal out of jealousy or out of stinginess and out of a dislike that somebody else accomplished the good that they accomplished. And sometimes, وَتَارَةً إِعْتِيَاضًا عَنْهُ بِرِئَاسَةٍ أَوْ مَالٍ. Sometimes they conceal in order to use that concealment as a way to exchange for leadership and wealth. By keeping the knowledge back, they can maintain leadership. By keeping the knowledge back, they can get an aspect of wealth. And as we all know, knowledge is power. Knowledge is the true valuable source in this life. And if you have any inclination to history, you understand that. How long ago was the Prophet ﷺ? It's only 1,400 years. That's not a long time. Like 500 years ago, the world was completely different. 300 years ago, the world was completely different. If you have the knowledge about what happened during that time, you have something more valuable than money today. And there's not a greater sign of that the knowledge is more valuable than the money, than when you look at how much money they pay for what? What do people pay a lot of money for that you'd be like, how do they pay that money for that? Old things. Somebody finds a dinosaur bone, they pay a lot of money for it. Somebody finds an artifact from a particular group of people. Why do they pay so much money for something that to them, a clay pot, for them it was worthless? It's just a cake, they threw it away. Why do we pay so much money for it?
It's worth money now.
Why is it worth money? Why do we pay? We'll pay hundreds upon thousands, sometimes millions of dollars for old stuff that nobody wanted back then. Why would we pay so much money for it now?
It's history.
Because it's the knowledge that we can get from it. I will get more, and that knowledge, when I have it, I am in charge because I know what this is and I know how to use it and I know what it can do. And that knowledge puts me above you. And you find out, like, just even in like worldly matters, like the government keeps certain knowledge away from the people. Why? To control them. If all of y'all know how to if all of y'all knew how to make weaponry, right, that'd be a problem. And your Google search, your Google search, you'd be like, I can't Google this because something's going to happen, right? Just simple things. How many of you know how to start a fire with sticks? MashaAllah. You got to teach us. Why are you being stingy, right? How many of you know how to slaughter an animal? And this is why you see in our religion, there's so many things that we have to have knowledge to do, right? How to make bread. Something happened yesterday. Did any of you all see it? That there was a crash on like a lot of internet systems. So planes couldn't function, banks went down. This just happened yesterday. We were in the masjid, we didn't know. I got home, it's a big thing on the news. So many systems have crashed. You couldn't call 911, right? And you think about something like that. What would we know how to do if all of that failed? If you couldn't, I was listening to a radio program and the person was in Mongolia. And he said about day 6 or 7 into my trip, I had no more use for money. Meaning money was no good anymore. 7 days into my trip, I'm in Mongolia, money's no good anymore. What I'm gonna do with it? At that point in time, what will give you power? What will give you ability? Knowledge.
Gold.
Knowledge. Knowing what to eat.
What about gold?
That's money. You get to a place, he said 7 days into my trip, nobody wants this gold. What I'm gonna do? You can't bite the gold. You don't even know how to build. Why is gold valuable and precious? Because of what you can do with it. But we don't even know what to do with it. We just like it. It's shiny. It's pretty. And so when you look historically, the people who were the scholars, were they scholars in just one thing? They knew about medicine. Ibn al-Qayyim, you think of Ibn al-Qayyim, you think about what? A scholar of Islam, right? But he knew about medicine. He knew about good health. They went to war. They knew how to fight. They knew how to conduct themselves in multiple fields because knowledge equals what? Knowledge is power. And that's why people conceal knowledge to keep you powerless. Because now that I know how to make, even when we look at something as simple as copyrights, I make something, I patent it, and what do I do now? I conceal that knowledge so you can't do what? You can't make money with it. It's my knowledge. You can't make money with that. I got to keep it private. Anyway, I mean, these are things to think about when you think like, whose idea was it to come up with copyright? Like nowadays, most Muslims feel that copyrights and intellectual property is a thing. But whose idea was it? And when did it start? Did the Sahaba have copyrights? Did they used to tell you, like, if I heard a hadith from you, did you have to pay me a dinar before you could tell it to somebody else? Because this is my hadith. But you find that the French and they put copyrights on things to keep wealth in their pocket.
Does it work?
Huh? Does it work?
Is it permissible to do?
It does. Permissible? Scholars disagree. I lean to the position that copyrights are not permissible. If they had a position similar to this,
So you can copyright.
huh?
So you can copyright.
I believe that you can't copyright anything. Right?
Wild things?
Huh?
A product?
I lean to the position of the scholars who say copyrights me. If you don't want me to know this, don't sell it to me. If I bought this book and I want to copy this book, whose book is it? It's my book. So if I want to go copy it, I can copy it. But if somebody says, well, look at the front page, it says حقوق الطبع محفوظة. The printing rights are reserved. No. And the scholars who say that it's not permissible to put copyrights on, like, for example, books of knowledge, what do they say? It's concealing knowledge. Right? And so, but there are other scholars who say, no, this is their intellectual property. If you don't put copyrights, then somebody will never print a book because it takes a lot of time and money to get a book made. And then if you can just come to the finished product and print 100 copies of it yourself, then a person will never do it because they won't be able to eat off of it. But it's that, why are we trying to eat off of it? But anyway, so the conversation becomes, sometimes they conceal knowledge as a way to exchange it for leadership, because it's power, or for wealth. He says, فَيَخَافُ مِنْ إِظْهَارِهِ انْتِقَاصِ رِئَاسَةٍ. So he's fearful that if he allows the knowledge to be apparent, it will reduce انتقاص رِئَاسَتِهِ. It will reduce his leadership. أو نقص ماله. أو يخاف نقص ماله. Or he's fearful of the reduction in his wealth. The more people know how to do this, think about pharmacies. The more people know how to use medicine, what's going to happen to those pharmaceutical companies? They'll go bankrupt. They'll buy products. Like everything is not just deen, right? It's also in the dunya. They'll buy products, medicines, remedies, just to remove it from the market. Maybe somebody's working on a cure for something. So a big company will buy that company just to take the research that they're doing and put it on a shelf so that nobody else does it, so that they can continue to sell the product that they're making money off of. Right? So they're fearful if this knowledge gets out, what's going to happen? It will reduce their wealth. He says, وَتَارَةً يَكُونُ قَدْ خَالَفَ غَيْرُهُ أو قَدْ خَالَفَ غَيْرَهُ فِي مَسْأَلَةٍ. Sometimes a person conceals because they've argued with somebody in the issue. This happens a lot from the students. We get into a debate. How many raka'at should you pray in Tarawih? All right? What's the answer?
Sky is the limit.
Sky's the limit. No, akhi, the Prophet didn't pray more than 11.
Yeah, but almost.
Akhi, but that's weak.
That's weak.
And then you find a hadith where it's authentic. Or you find a hadith that the Prophet said, Salatul Layli Methana. But you've already argued so hard on this point. Do you call the brother back up and be like, hey, I found a hadith that supports your argument? Or do you just conceal it? And then the next time somebody asks you that question, you tell them your hadith, but you don't tell them the other one. You conceal it because you've argued with somebody in a topic, and this is a topic he's going to talk about. This is one of my favorite points in the book. He's going to talk about this especially later on. You've argued with somebody even though you didn't know they were wrong.
They were wrong or you were wrong?
You didn't know they were wrong. Meaning me and you are arguing, and I'm arguing for my side of the argument without knowing that you're wrong in the argument. Meaning you might be right, but I'm still arguing against you. And I'm going to conceal my information so that it doesn't give you an upper leg in the argument. Because you don't know, you don't know enough to argue with me, so I'm going to keep things away from you, even though you might be on the right position. And this happens a lot. And you find even sometimes where it's not a complete concealment, it's a skewing of the information. They're presenting the information in a way as if it's nothing. So I might even tell the other side of the argument, but I shroud it to make it look like it's really, really weak, or that it's nothing, or that it has no value, just because my side of the argument is this. And he's going to mention this later on when he talks about the types of praiseworthy and criticizable debating. And a statement of Ahl Sunnah is that we show what is for us as well as what's against us. Right? When we're establishing the haqq, we don't just show our side of it and act like the other people don't have any leg to stand on. And you see this often in the statements of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. You'll be like, why is he using so-and-so to prove something? Why is he mentioning this guy? I thought this guy was a deviant. Or why is he saying that this guy said this? I thought that guy was shot out. Why is he mentioning his statement? And it's because we mention what's for us and what's against us. If they said something correct, we can acknowledge it without just being really arrogant on our side of the truth. Because that's the good thing about the truth. It's going to be victorious. Now, is that for everybody? Are we saying go and read the books of all of these deviants so you can use the truth in their books? No, that's a level later on. But it's a quality that Ahl Sunnah is categorized with, that we don't deny the other person's argument out of arrogance and conceal what is the truth from them to win an argument. Anyway, let's take one more. Keep going, Amir. ولهذا. No, yeah, go ahead.
ولهذا قال عبد الرحمن بن مهدي وغيره أهل العلم يكتبون ما لهم وما عليهم وأهل الأهواء لا يكتبون إلا ما لهم.
No, هذا جميل. This is what we just mentioned. He says ولهذا قال عبد الرحمن بن مهدي. عبد الرحمن بن مهدي was from the أتباع التابعين, from the صغارهم, and he was a famous scholar. Him and Sa'id al-Qattan were two scholars who were very known for their evaluation of people. He died in the year 198. Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, and he was the one who had indicated to Ash-Shafi'i rahimahullah, who was younger than him, to write a risala. Right? He said, why don't you write a book that we can use it to show people how to think about the religion correctly? And so Imam Ash-Shafi'i wrote a risala. Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, he said, Ahl Sunnah or Ahlul Ilm yaktubuna ma lahum wa ma alayhim. Meaning when it comes to hadith, we're not biased with our information. We write what supports our position and what's against our position. Right? You go down on your hands and your knees first. Well, I'm not going to just write the hadith of Wa'il ibn Hujr. I'm also going to write the hadith of Abi Hurairah. Right? I'm going to make sure that knowledge is preserved. While the people of desire, they only write what supports them. Right? They only care about hadith as it can benefit them and support their argument. But as far as us, we preserve knowledge for the sake of it being knowledge. Now, somebody else, no, finish Amir. وليس
الغرب تفصيل ما يجب أو يستحب في ذلك بل الغرض التنبيه على مجامع يتفطن.
Here, one thing I want you, so side topic, since this is an Arabic class, do you all know the scales? Scale 1 is what? Fa'ala. Scale 2 is?
فعل.
Fa'ala. Scale 3?
تفاعل
Fa'ala.
فاعل
Scale 4,
تفاعل
af'ala.
أفعل
Scale 5,
تعالى
tafa'ala. Scale 6, tafa'ala. Scale 7, infa'ala. Scale 8, ifta'ala. Scale 9, don't worry about it for right now. Scale 10, istaf'ala. When you're reading, when you don't know a word, your first thing is figure out what is the original letters. What's the original letters in this word?
فطن
root.
Yeah, the root. Fatana. Okay. If it's fatana, now I automatically know what scale this is on because I see it's mudari, right? So if it's mudari, what I got to do? Huh? I got to take off the mudari note to say the scale, right? So I know that the original letters is fatana. I see fa'ala, fatana,
تفاطن
tafattana. Mumtaz.
فطن
Right? And now I know what scale it's on. What scale is it on?
يتفطن
Mumtaz. No, fatana would be 3 letters, but there's a ta there as well. So it can't be 3 letter. It can't be 4 letter. It has to be 5 letter. Tafattana. Right? Because once I've recognized what the original letters are, and I see that one of the letters is a present tense letter, then that means it's tafattana. Is there any scale tafa'ala? Is there any scale tafa'ala?
تفاعل
There's tafa'ala, so I automatically know that this is on what scale? Tafa'ala, right? So I'm always looking for what are the root, and now I know, okay, what is fatana? What does that mean? Any of you brothers remember our brother Fatin?
فطين I thought it was فطيمة
That's Fatima, that's a woman. But you got Fatin, that means to be clever. So what does tafattana mean?
to be clever
Exactly. To take on the quality of cleverness, right? ففي ذلك بل الغرض التنبيه على مجامع يتفطن اللبيب. Right? Keep going.
يتفطن اللبيب بها
اللبيب هو فاعل.
اللبيب
أي فاعل.
اللبيب بها لما ينفعه الله به.
ممتاز. So he says وليس الغرض تفصيل ما يجب أو يستحب من ذلك أو في ذلك. Our goal in this book isn't to talk about what is necessary to mention from the truth to your opponent, or what is preferable to mention from the truth to your opponent. The goal of this book isn't the etiquette of how to debate. Right? In Islam, there's an etiquette on how to debate. If you're having a debate with someone, there's an etiquette in that. Right? Like in school, we used to have debate team and you got to go up and present arguments, and then they do this in Islam. Right? When you're arguing with a Shafi'i scholar and you're a Hanafi scholar, you got to know, okay, what's the etiquette of debate and what do you have to say? When do you know you want to debate? How do you know you've won a debate? How do you know you won the argument?
There's a ikhtilaf, I guess, something that
Meaning me and you arguing. How do I know I won? How would you know you won?
You might say you won.
He might agree with you, then you've won. But if not, how do you know you won?
He's on quiet.
He has no dalil.
If he has nothing else to say. If you got him to a point where he can't answer anymore, you've won the argument, right? And so there's an etiquette to a debate because we can't overtalk each other. We got to know how to talk. And when I'm presenting the argument, what method do I have to present the argument in, right? We can't just be randomly. It's like arguing with a woman. Like you never win, right? Because the argument's always changing. So in the etiquette of an argument, you have to know how to present the argument. What information do you have to give? What information is better to give? Is this the goal of this book? Is this book Adab al-Jadal? Is this book the book of the etiquette of debating? So we're not going to talk about all of that. ليس الغرض بيان ما يجب من ذلك أو يستحب. The goal of this book isn't to clarify what is necessary of that or what is preferable. But instead, the goal is to tanbih, just to draw indications to majami, to general concepts يتفطن اللبيب, that the clever person can pick up on. Right? We're just going to mention a couple things that once you heard it, if a clever person would say, I understand everything you're talking about now. يتفطن اللبيب بها that the clever person will recognize it lima yanfa'u, and will benefit from it, that which Allah will bless him with, that which Allah will benefit him with. This little bit of information, we could talk all day, but just a little bit. Don't be what? Don't be jealous. Don't be what? Stingy. Clever person hears it and is like, I got it. And Allah benefits you with that knowledge. Every time you look up and you catch yourself being a little bit jealous, you remember the statement, what? Ibn Taymiyyah said, don't be jealous. That's Jewishness, being jealous. And you benefit, right? Ibn Taymiyyah said, don't be stingy with knowledge. You was going to not say something, but then you was like, man, and it's like that. Sometimes there's a situation you see people doing stuff and you know something that can solve their problem. But you say to yourself, it's not my business. It's not my business. Let them do what they do. I ain't got time for these people and their foolishness. But you have knowledge that can help them. Do you be stingy with it? And you said, he said, don't be stingy with the knowledge. Hey, Akhi, I see y'all was arguing about this. Maybe I can help you. I remember hearing a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, right? And maybe they accept it, maybe they don't, but that triggered in your head, don't be jealous, don't be stingy. Somebody wants to pay you to do a job with your knowledge in the religion, but it's going to require you to compromise. You're going to tell yourself what? Don't conceal. If I take this position at this masjid, if I take this position at this school, if I take this position at this business, I got to do what? I got to say the truth, right? They're paying you a good check. And then something happens. They put the American flag on the door. What do? You just lower your head and say, astaghfirullah, I ain't going to say nothing. Right? Because they're paying me. And they didn't pay me for this. They paid me to teach Arabic. You got to say something, right? These things are important. Y'all done it? Y'all take one more issue. For me, I go all day. Yalla. Somebody else read. Yalla. Yeah, come on. Leish. Why not? You can read Arabic? Then read it. It's tough. That's how you get better. You gonna just leave it tough your whole life?
You have ayats. The next one is
you can do it. وقال
وقال تعالى وإذا قيل لهم آمنوا بما أنزل الله قالوا نؤمن بما أنزل علينا ويكفرون بما وراءه وهو الحق مصدقا لما معهم بعد أن قال وكانوا من قبل يستفتحون على الذين كفروا فلما جاءهم ما عرفوا كفروا به فلعنة الله على الكافرين.
Keep going. You only gonna get better. Take your pen. Every time you make a mistake, put the halakha down. It's your book. Write your halakha down.
فصف
فوصف
الهدى
Now read it. Take a second. El-Yahud. And this is why it's important to actually read, because in English, do you read a stop sign? Do you read a stop sign?
No.
If it was blue, would you still stop?
I'll read that.
No, you wouldn't, because you know the way to work. What's that sign say? What's it say? Did you go? You just looked at the word and recognized it because you've seen it so much in your life. If you're not reading and saying it, that's why they tell you when you read, you should read out loud. You know how hard it would be? Like, we experienced this. Write the name Allah on a board for a child to read. Who can read Arabic? It's difficult because they're not used to seeing the way Allah is written. But the more you read, you just look at the word and it says what? Now that you know that word, you look at it and it says what? al-Yahud. All right, I know this word now. Keep going.
Yahudu.
فوصف اليهود. أن
أنهم
there you go.
كانوا يعرفون الحق قبل
ظهور ظهور الناطق
به والداعي إليه فلما جاءهم الناطق به من غير طائفة
من غير طائفة. This one is tough. يهوونها أو يحوونها. يحوونها.
لم ينقادوا له
وأنهم
لا يقبلون الحق إلا من
الطائفة.
جار مجرور.
Gets discussed.
Huh?
Gets discussed.
Yes, alif and lam on it.
Just I know, but because it's one of those words that doesn't.
Oh, because it's because you think it's mamnu min as-sarf because it's feminine.
Yeah.
No, it's not a feminine word.
من الطائفة التي هم من
So ta'if and ta'ifa is ism fa'il. So when you have ism fa'il, like you have sajid and sajida,
You can know
it's not mamnu' min as-sarf. When it gets mamnu' min as-sarf is when it's a name and feminine. Right? When it's a name in feminine, it gets mamnu' min as-sarf. But as far as when it's a sifa, it doesn't get mamnu' min as-sarf. So if her name was ta'ifa, then you would say ta'ifata.
Okay, I got it.
التي هم
Mun
منتسبون إليها مع أنهم لا
يتبعون
ما
لزيمهم
في
اعتقادهم. طيب, this issue is very important. This is one of those issues that, all right, jealousy. Yeah, you got no jealousy. Don't be stingy. Don't be stingy. Conceal. This issue right here is very important. He says, قال تعالى. So we know we're on a new topic. وإذا قيل لهم وإذا قيل لمن, when it said to who? هذا نزلت في اليهود. And if you look again, what surah is it? Baqarah. Like we tell you, want to know these qualities, right? Upon you is with these surahs. وإذا قيل لهم آمنوا بما أنزل الله. Everybody got that? Because if everybody got it, we don't need to translate. وإذا قيل لهم آمنوا بما أنزل الله قالوا قالوا نؤمن بما أنزل علينا فقط. Huh? Okay. And when it said to them, have faith in what Allah sent down, they say, we have faith in what Allah sent down to us. Right? We believe in what Allah sent to us. وَيَكْفُرُونَ بِمَا وَرَاءَهُ. And they disbelieve in everything besides that. Wara'a, behind that. But here it means besides that, right? وَيَكْفُرُونَ بِمَا وَرَاءَهُ وَهُوَ الْحَقِّ. even though it is the truth. مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا مَعَهُمْ. That confirms what they have with them. Allah sent down the Quran of Muhammad ﷺ and told the Yahud, have iman in it. What did they say? No, we believe in the Torah. Right? Even though what came after the Torah, the Quran, is the haqq that confirms what's in the Torah. So their first quality is what? They reject the haqq. Look at what he says after that. He says, and Allah mentioned this, بَعْدَ أَنْ قَالَ وَكَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ يَسْتَفْتِحُونَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ مَا عَرَفُوا كَفَرُوا بِهِ فَلَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. He says, and before, they used to, كَانُوا يَسْتَفْتِحُونَ, they used to ask for Allah's victory upon those who disbelieved. So when Allah gave them that, فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ, when it came to them, what they recognized, كَفَرُوا بِهِ, they disbelieved in it. فَلَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ بِئْسَ مَا اشْتَرَوْا بِهِ أَنفُسَهُمْ. Right? And then Allah mentions, they say we have faith in what was sent to us, and they disbelieve in everything else. He says, so Allah describes the Yahud that they used to know the haqq before it came. And this is an important thing. That you used to be on the haqq. I remember you when you was young, you used to be Salafi, mashallah. I remember you used to always be in the book. Mashallah, what happened? I remember you used to always study. What happened? Kanu min qablu. Somebody open after. I think they might be delivering some water. They used to open. They used to be, or they used to know the haqq before it came. And not only did they know the haqq before it came, what would they do? They would tell everybody you need to be on the haqq. Right? They knew the haqq. They acted according to the haqq, and they called to the haqq. Right? And then he says, so they used to know the haqq before it came. Before the one who says it came. Talking about the prophet, right? قَبْلَ أَنْ أَتَى النَّاطِقُ بِهِ. They used to know the haqq before the one who said it came. What is it, akhi? Masahif? Hey, just put them here for now. We'll put them out, inshallah. Open one up. What kind are they? Tafsir or masahif? Oh, mashallah. Translations. Translation. Oh, it's not all the same book? Bags of books? Okay, yeah, put this in there. Like, when you get an English translation of the Quran, what's the first surah you go to?
What's the first surah?
Yeah, what's the first surah you go to when you get an English?
Arsh.
Taha. When I get an English Quran, the first surah I go to is Taha. Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa. What they say, how they translate it. It's going to be important.
But what about the hints, Sheikh?
Oh yeah, I also go to that. The Surah Sad. Ya Iblisu ma mana'aka lima tasjudu lima khalaqtu bi yaday. Okay, here we go. Him has created the earth and the high heavens, the all-merciful Ar-Rahman, settled on the throne. Okay, and they got footnote 6. What do they say in footnote 6? Where do you see their footnotes at? Footnote 6. Clause. I'm sorry, but before we can do anything with it, where's footnote 6? Is it in the beginning? Is it at the end of the surah? It can't be at the end of the surah. Okay, so they just got general footnotes for everything. Okay. Index.
Maybe it's just...
No, this is a summarized translation of a different print. I know this print actually, but I just can't recognize which one it is. But anyway, I'll look at it later. What they got?
Which ayat is that, Sheikh?
That's I don't know the number of it. I just know Ar-Rahman. I mean, Surah Taha. Ar-Rahmanu ala arsh istawa. Huh? 5 or 6? Yeah. Okay. About the translators, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan, born 1925 in India. Farida Khan, Goodwin Books, CPS International. If I'm not mistaken, this print, the footnotes is where the bad stuff was, but we'll come back to that. Now, so he says, so they used to know the haqq before the one who would say it came. وَأَنَّهُمْ لَا يَقْبَلُونَ الْحَقَّ. He says, the one who would call to it, الداعي إليه. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ النَّاطِقُ بِهِ مِنْ غَيْرِ طَائِفَتِهِمْ. So when the one who speaks the truth finally came, but he was from a group that they didn't desire, they didn't obey him. And they didn't accept the truth unless it was from their group that they affiliated with. And that's the point. How many of us, you find us wanting to be on the truth, calling to the truth, but when somebody who's not from our group comes and tells us the truth, we don't accept it. Unless they're from the group that we affiliate with, right? He says, إِلَّا أَنْ يَكُونَ مِنْ طَائِفَةِ الَّتِي هُمْ مُنْتَسِبُونَ إِلَيْهِ. Unless that person is from the group that they affiliate to. مَا عِنَّهُ. And this is the point right here. This is like the backbreaker. Even though they don't actually follow what is necessary upon them to believe, i.e. the group that they affiliate with. You see a Muslim calling the people to something and knowing the truth, but then somebody else comes and says a statement of truth that isn't from their group. They reject it just because he's not from their group, even though what he's saying is the truth. And they claim it's because that person is shot out. That person's not on the haqq. But then, not only that, they don't even follow the truth that they have in their group. So when it happens inside of their group, they don't follow the truth either. I don't know if this is making sense. But that is an important thing that a lot of Muslims fall into. You're not old, right? Young Muslim. You're not from my group, right? But they don't follow what old Muslims are supposed to do. You're not American. You're not Bosnian. You're not Turkish, right? But they don't follow what the Quran says in themselves. They reject you because you say something that is the truth, because you're not from their group, but they don't even follow their group. And the saddest thing is that you see this sometimes happening amongst the Salafis, right? You're not from this group of us, so we're going to reject the truth. Akhi, it's the same principle. It's the same hadith, but they don't follow it even in their group, right? And so that's a bad quality that the Muslim can be described with. Can somebody else read? Yalla, I'll read. وَهَذَا يُبْتَلَى بِهِ كَثِيرٌ مِنَ الْمُنْتَسِبِينَ إِلَى طَائِفَةٍ مُعَيِّنَةٍ في العلم أو الدين من المتفقهة أو المتصوفة أو غيرهم أو إلى رئيس معظم عندهم في الدين غير النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. غير النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. فإنهم لا يقبلون من الدين رأيا ولا رواية إلا ما جاءت به طائفتهم ثم إنهم لا يعلمون ما توجبه طائفتهم مع أن دين الإسلام يوجب اتباع الحق مطلقا رواية ورأيا من غير تعيين شخص أو طائفة غير رسول الله أو غير الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. Again, he says, وَهَذَا يُبْتَلَى بِهِ كَثِيرٌ مِنَ الْمُنْتَسِبِينَ إِلَى طَائِفَةٍ. And this quality of rejecting the truth, if it's not from your group, while at the same point in time not following the truth that your group has to begin with, he says that this quality, a large number of those who affiliate to different groups of knowledge or religion. And what he means by religion here is worship, right? You got groups of people who affiliate themselves to knowledge or groups of people who affiliate themselves to worship. They are afflicted with this quality. Whether it be from the people who claim to be al-mutafaqqiha, the people of Islamic law, right? A Hanafi won't take the statement of a Hanbali that says the haqq, just because it's a Hanbali that said it, even though they don't follow Abu Hanifa correctly. A Maliki won't take the statement of a Shafi'i just because it's a Shafi'i who said it, even though they don't follow Imam al-Shafi'i correctly, right? You tell a Shafi'i, for example, Imam al-Shafi'i said, Imam al-Shafi'i established, or let's make a different example. You tell a Shafi'i, for example, Imam Malik established the istiwa of Allah, right? Bila kayf. Imam Malik established the istiwa of Allah without any how. That's a Maliki opinion. We don't follow Malik in our Aqidah. We follow, we say, okay, you're Shafi'i, right? He said, yeah, well, Shafi'i established the same thing. So they don't follow the haqq because somebody else said it, but they don't even follow the haqq that is part of their group. He says, regardless if they're from the people who attribute themselves to Islamic knowledge, like law, al-mutafaqqiha, or al-mutasawwifa, the people who attribute themselves to worship. How many times the worshipers don't take something because the people of knowledge said it, right? So they reject, you guys don't know the reality of the religion. You guys aren't good worshipers. You guys are you only know law. You don't know the truth. And so they reject it because the people who said it are the people of knowledge. And how many times do the people of, and this is an important one, do the people of knowledge reject the people of worship? No, it happens a lot. The person who has knowledge, unfortunately, a lot of times you see his worship isn't like the worship of the people of worship. The people of worship are always where? In the masjid. All the sunnahs, all the dhikr after the salat. They're not moving. They're subhanallah, subhanallah, right? And the people of knowledge look at them like what? Nothing, right? And they tell them, Akhi, why don't you make your dhikr? Akhi, I'm busy. I got to remember haddathana Abu Nu'aym, right? And they reject the people of worship just because you're not from their group, even though the haqq that's in their group tells them they should be doing what? You should be making a dhikr. Right? What's the point of this knowledge if you're not going to use it? And so
is he referring to mutasawwif as worshippers? Or
just worshippers, yeah. He's not meaning the deviant group Sufi per se, even though it is including them.
It says here,
right?
Bid'ah.
That's a footnote. But without a doubt, so when you say the mutafaqqiha and the mutasawwifa, it's talking about two classifications of people. The mutafaqqiha are the people who their disposition is Islamic law, right? And you got to remember, like during their time, you had those type of people. There was people who were like, their whole life was just learning knowledge, right? But you didn't see in them a lot of action. And then you had another group, the mutasawwifa. That's what they would call them. They were just the zuhad, the people who were worshiping. Some of them might have been Sufi, like the aqidah, the methodology. And it includes them, right? Because the Sufi, the people of innovation, they don't accept unless you're from their group. When we talk about, like we talk about it a lot, tabligh, Jamaat tabligh. They own, like a lot of times, they only accept you if you're from them, right? But if you're outside of them, they reject it. So the point of it is that it is including the Sufi, but when he says mutasawwifa here, he's just being more general. The people of information versus the people of action. He says, or other than them, right? So if a person, you find this quality of rejecting the truth of another group, while at the same point in time not following the truth that your group has, from those who attribute themselves to knowledge or religion, from the people of Islamic law or from the people of worship, or you find from the people who attribute themselves to a leader that they have, right? They attribute themselves to some type of leader or somebody that they deem high in the religion. Mu'azzam indahum fi din, right? Like the Shiite, for example, the Ayatollah, right? We only accept from the Ayatollah. We don't accept from anybody else, right? Or other, and it doesn't have to be that extreme, right? Unfortunately, like, and this is a statement like from our scholars, from the Salafi scholars, are those that you find people, they'll only accept from this group of scholars. They'll only listen to this group of scholars, right? And it's like, akhi, there are other scholars as well, right? But because they have aligned themselves to only listen to this applies to them as well to the extent that it applies. That they attribute themselves to a leader that is esteemed with them in the religion, other than the Prophet. He says, وَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يَقْبَلُونَ مِنَ الدِّينِ رَأْيًا وَرِوَايَةً إِلَّا مَا جَاءَتْ بِهِ طَائِفَةً. And they don't accept in the religion any opinion or any narration except what comes from their group, right? Whatever the opinion of their group is, they accept. theoretically. But if it comes from other than their group, they won't accept it. Even though the different nations are, like for example, and he's going to talk a lot about this when he talks about the argumentation. If you see somebody doing the Iqamah 4 times, how do you feel about that?
Good.
You say you feel good. Alhamdulillah.
So,
It's okay? Even though you think it's okay, do you cringe a little bit?
I would say I wish he knew.
He knew what?
Same, but twice, not 4 times.
Why not?
Because it was in Bukhari.
You saying the other one is...
No, I'm
so
not saying the other one is...
so why you got a problem with the way he does it then?
Well, I don't have a problem.
But you wish.
I wish that...
Why you wish he would do something a different way if he's doing it right?
Well, I don't know if it's right or not.
Because you practice both.
You see what I'm saying? Like, he's going to talk about that. Like, you'll find yourself, even though you know something else is okay, disliking it because it's not your opinion. Because it's not the opinion. How many of you all have a problem with somebody who doesn't eat at McDonald's? Or how many of you all have a problem with somebody that does? And even though you know it's disagreement, do you cringe a little bit? Does it make you feel like, I wish they didn't eat at McDonald's? Or I wish we could just go to McDonald's?
If we were in a situation.
You see what I'm saying? Even though you know that this person has a haq with him. Right? And so this is that type of concept, like, because of who we follow and align ourselves up, he's going to talk about it in detail. Like, we can't have anything against that other person. Even though they're outside of the opinion that we have or in a different group that we're in this issue, we're all the same. You see what I'm saying? And so that's what he's saying here, that you'll find these people attributing themselves to somebody that they find high in the religion, so they don't accept any opinion except theirs. And they don't accept any narration except theirs, what comes from their group. Then you find them not knowing what their group actually says. How many of the people that argue with us often don't even know the evidences of their group? Akhi, can you eat at McDonald's? What's the proof? Akhi, can you not eat at McDonald's? What's the proof? We don't know our own argument. We just know that this, and then we start feeling a certain way about somebody else just because they're not from the group that I'm on. When most of the time we don't even know our opinion. He says, in spite of the fact that the religion of Islam necessitates following the truth wherever it comes from. No matter who told me the truth, I got to follow it. If he was Hanafi, he was a Hanafi who doesn't move his finger in tashahhud. Right? I still got to follow the truth if he tells me. He doesn't touch feet to feet. I still got to follow the truth if he tells me. And I can't just reject him. I'm not listening to Hanafis. Right? Why you keep looking at him? Sahib a Hanafi?
people are kind of...
Huh? Most people are Hanafi. Your people are Hanafi. What you looking at him for?
yeah. But he always mentions it, that's why.
Yeah, it's prominent in that because most people are Hanafi. The Hanafi is the biggest madhab out there. Right? Are you going to reject them just because they're Hanafi? Or like they might do to us. I ain't listening to Salafis. They too extreme. I ain't listening to that. You got to follow truth wherever it comes. And if somebody's wrong, but it's important that we first learn our truth and then learn the truth. Anyway, we'll stop at this one. He says, Ma'anna Deen al-Islam, it necessitates following the truth wherever it comes from, whether it be a narration or an opinion, without specifying an individual or a group. And that's from the qualities that make Islam unique. There is no individual that we all have to follow other than the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no pope, there is no preacher, there is no hierarchy. If you disagree with any, you can disagree with Abu Bakr. And all of us know that, right? All of us know that, right? Until it comes time to practice. And that person disagree with our sheikh, we say, what about him? Akhi, but the sheikh said. Akhi, I can disagree with Abu Bakr. Akhi, but the sheikh said. What does that mean? Right? Now, there's that balance. We value what the sheikh said. The sheikh is the sheikh for a reason. Does that mean I can't follow a different opinion? And if I follow that different opinion, am I a deviant? Akhi, any sheikh that we follow today, who was better, him or Abu Hanifa? Don't be shy about it. Who was better, him or Abu Hanifa? Abu Hanifa. Min al-Qurun al-Mufaddala. Right? He's from the Qur'an. He saw Sahaba. Right? Allah didn't allow his madhab to remain with him being an evil person and to have so many Muslims following it. Right? How many of our scholars, past and present, like during the time of Abu Hanifa until today, disagree with Abu Hanifa? If we can disagree, if our scholars can disagree with Abu Hanifa and say that he was wrong about this issue or that issue, isn't it possible that another scholar can be wrong about this issue or that issue? And the obligation is to do what? Follow the truth. There is no madhab that you have to follow. There is no group that you have to enroll in, except there's no leader that you have to obey in totality other than the messenger and other than the group of the messenger. Right? Somebody might say, well, why do I got to be Salafi? Do you got to be Salafi?
You have to follow the Salaf.
Huh? I'm asking you. He looks like he don't want to say yes. Huh? We said there's no group that you have to be a part of. Do you got to be part of the Salafi group? Oh, I know. But do you have to be Salafi?
No.
Yes. Because we said you don't have to follow any person except who?
Prophets.
And you don't have to follow any group except who? The Prophets, awesome. The Prophets group. What is the Prophets group? Salafiyya. Right? All of these other words, if a person says they don't have to follow Salafiyya, it's because they don't know what? What is Salafiyya? We're not saying you have to go register to the Salafiyya Ilmiya that votes in this political party in Egypt. We're not saying you have to go sign up to be Salafiyya Jihadiyya that goes and kills innocent people in this place or that place in the country. We're saying you have to be Salafi, meaning what? You have to follow the Quran, the Sunnah, and the way of the Sahaba. Whose group is that? That's the Prophet's group. Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnati al-khulafa ar-rashidin. So, don't let that statement trick you. Don't let somebody say, well, I don't have to be part of any group. They were just Muslims during the time of the Prophet. I don't got to be part of any group. I don't want to be Salafi. I don't want to be Ikhwani. I don't want to be Tablighi. I'm just Muslim. No, you got to be Salafi. Now, you might not know what Salafi means, so we'll explain it to you. Once we explain it to you, you know it. And do you have to use the word Salafi? It's not wajib to use the word, right? But this is the last thing I'll say. A person says to you, I don't think nothing's wrong with Cadillacs, I'm just not going to drive one. What's that mean?
Do what you please.
I don't think nothing's wrong with it, I'm just not going to do it.
Something wrong.
He doesn't want it.
Inside yourself, you feel something's wrong with it, right? I don't think nothing's wrong with fish, I'm just not going to eat it. All right, from Abdul Hakim, you know that's clearly false. He thinks something's wrong with fish, right? Meaning you might theoretically believe it's okay, but the fact that you're refraining from it intentionally means that you think something's wrong with it. If it never came up and you just happen to never say Salafi, that'd be no big deal. If you just happen to say Ahl Sunnah your whole life and it never came up. But if somebody came and said, are you Salafi? And you say, no, I'm not going to say that. It's like, why? Well, I believe it's the truth. I just don't like saying it. I'm not going to say it. Why not?
Why not?
You see what I'm saying? Is there something wrong with it? No, it's not wrong with it. I'm just not going to say it. That shows that inside of you, you think something's wrong with it. And so this is how sometimes people can be like on the different sides of the argument when you start talking about somebody says, well, they believe that, you know, the way of the Salaf is correct, but they just don't want to say the word. Or they're just not going to say it themselves. Or, you know, they try to refrain from categorization. No, there's categories. There's groups. And the group that we have to be upon is the group of the who? The Prophet ﷺ. And whatever way you define that group is the group. Meaning that is the group you have to be with. Whether you call it Salafiyya, Ta'ifatul Mansura, Firqatul Najiyah, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'at, Sunni Muslims. However you categorize it. But if a person has a problem with one of the classifications, then that shows that they have somewhat of a problem with this methodology to some extent.
You know, a lot of people, they don't understand the ya'un nisba in the word salaf.
Exactly.
They'll say, we should follow the salaf, but why should we call ourselves salafi?
Exactly.
Because of this ya'un nisba you're ascribing to
Exactly.
the salaf.
And that's what it is. It's usually out of ignorance that they don't understand what it means to say. I'm not going to say it, Akhi. I mean, it used to be a big thing. People would be like, I'm Salafi, I'm just not going to say it. Like, why? What's wrong with saying it?
Right.
Well, I don't want to, you guys are always making classifications and separating them. That shows you that they've begun to think that Salafiyya separates the people. Does Salafiyya separate the people?
People separate from
It brings the people back together. And so if a person has an aversion to attributing to it, it shows that inside themselves they must not know what it really means, or they have something against it. Like, for example, somebody asks me, are you Wahhabi? What am I say? No, I'm not Wahhabi. I got a problem with it. You see what I'm saying? Because Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab didn't start nothing. Right? And so a person says, are you Salafi? What am I say?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Salafi. I attribute to the Salaf. You see what I'm saying? Somebody asks me, are you Muhammadan? What you gonna say? Are you a Muhammadi? What you gonna say?
That's new.
I'm gonna say no.
Right.
I never heard this term used. I got a problem with it. Even though the meaning is right, I got a problem with it. You see what I'm saying? So a person who says that rejects it, it shows that they have some type of problem with it. While the reality is it has to be what we're on. We'll stop at this amount. He's going to mention some more qualities of the Maghduba alayhim before he gets into the Yahud, the Nasara, and then into the Na'ala. But for today we had no hasad, no jealousy, no concealing the truth, no following the truth. What was the next one? Arrogance was mentioned. No, we only did 4 though today, right? Well, hold on. Yeah, we only did 4. The last one that we just did. No jealousy, no concealing, no hide, no being stingy, no hiding the truth, and no knowing the truth, but not accepting it when it's not from our group, while at the same time not following what is necessary upon us in our group. That's what we did. That was the last one. To not follow the truth because it wasn't from us, while being deficient in how we following what is with us. Everybody got those? Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.